Hi and welcome back to MDriven 1000 Steps program. This is chapter 17. So last chapter we added this association between car factory and brand of car. You can see that these are marked, they are gray in the UI, these are black. So what's the difference with gray and black? Well, it's actually the default name. As soon as we have the default name, we normally draw it black. You can control this by standing on the diagram itself. So this is the diagram of person and car, and show association names. Now it's set to the default, dim the defaults. So since these are the default names, and what that means is that's the name of the target class, and in this direction it's the name of the target class with an appended plural suffix s that comes from the fact that this is a multilink, and that there should be an s as the suffix. That's a setting on the package. So the package has a plural suffix s, and this is the default setting. But what I wanted to mention is that the default name is often okay and good. But in this case, it's not the proper English. Car factories isn't the right way to write it. You should write factories, I believe. And I want to show you this because now we're in the MDriven server and we have a database, and we also have data in this association. So what's going to happen when we rename it? So we're going to try to rename it and go into the cloud dialog, and just going to check that everything runs okay, and then I'm going to check the changes. When we upload this kind of change or check for change, we should get this message: no DB changes detected, but checksum differs. And this indicates changes to methods, non-stored association ends or derivations. So this is important for the MDriven server to have the same exact model as the one that we want to that we have designed, so that the checksums are okay. Because if the turnkey would or if someone tries to save, like if we have the debugger or something and try to save something with another model, with another checksum than the MDriven server has, it will fail. And that's it, built-in protection. But if you don't get this message, it's probably because you have an older version of the MDriven server. So let's take this opportunity to see how to refresh those, because you want to refresh these pretty often to make sure that you have the latest. So you download the latest, and this should start the download from the MDriven site and this will hold the latest available published versions of these two servers. And once we have downloaded them, we can refresh the install for our specific server. So we are running on server 1. I'm going to refresh that install. We might get this that we can't refresh it because our servers are already running. So I'm going to find these running servers and close them, and then I'm going to try again. And once I've done that, I can try to start them. And quite often when I start them like this, after a refresh install, they won't start, and that's not really determined why that is, but we think it's a file lock that happens. So what usually is a good approach is to have a server 2 and refresh that as well, because now the virus scan or whatever it is that locks the first one is diverted to server 2. So when I go back to server 1, I can usually just start them straight off. If none of these things work, you should just restart your MDriven designer to have a fresh version of the service running. And trying to send up the changes gives you this error message now. And then this is okay, so we're gonna upload the model, and once the model is uploaded, we can see there are no changes detected, and the server status is that the model was uploaded okay. So this was a non-stored association, and what that means is that the key in the database is really stored in this end. So the table brand of car will have no foreign key to car factories, because there can be many. Instead, the car factory will have this brand of car as a foreign key in its table. And that means if we were to change this in any way, let's just put an X here for an example. If I save now, I will get some errors because you used X now, but that we haven't used that in the expressions. Let's leave that for now and just head over here and try to check the changes to see what this would mean in the database. So, data stored in car factory brand of car ID for member brand of car will be lost. So what happens when we do these kind of breaking changes is that this foreign key is dropped from this table, and then a new key with a new name is created. And that means that we sort of lose any car factories that already has brand of car associated to them in the data. So that might not be exactly what we want. And especially when we have worked longer on our information and model, we might still want to change the name of a specific association or attribute, but we don't want to lose the data. So how would we go about that? So if we click this one, we can see that all of these important things in the model has an effective, or rather an let's see, it has a former names property. And filling in a former name, so we can say that this actually had the former name brand of car, because that's actually what it had before we changed it to brand of car X. And if we then check the changes, we will get a slightly different message, because as we fill in the former names, this logic kicks in. It will move the old name brand of car ID to brand of car X ID. So that will help us to keep the data, to make the data survive. So that's an important thing to know about. But since this is not actually what we want to do now, it was just an elaborate example on and a opportunity to talk about the former names and renaming things. So I'm gonna change this back. And of course the warnings disappeared, since now it doesn't violate the the expressions. Suppose that you want to change this to brand of car X, but you also have a lot of you also use this association and in a lot of OCL expressions, like we do in this case. Not a lot, but a few. Then there is a better way than just renaming it in the UI like this. You can use the function called rename. And the rename function lists everywhere it is currently used. So if we sort of say that we want to have the new name with an X behind, we also have this option, set former name, and that will help us to set the old name to in the former name property. That will help us when we evolve the data in the database. And if I now press apply, I both have this one, the former names set for me. I also, when I've saved this, I don't get the error. I should at least not get the error, but I see that I do, and we will see why that is. And that's because this rename function accidentally renamed too much. So this is a bug that we're going to fix going forward, but it also mistakenly changed the association name in this OCL expression for the brand of car when it comes from the car, and not only from when it comes from the factory. And we only actually changed this end. We didn't change this end. So, but we're not going to have it like this. I'm going to rename it back. And since we tricked this, it got confused, so we're going to fix this manually like that. So what we have done, everything is the same, but we have changed the name on this to car factories instead of car factories with a Y instead of E-I-E. Okay. Moving on. Let's see. If I double click car factory, I can get the auto diagram to see what we have on this. We have the car factory seeker and we have the car factory view from the last chapter. I'm going to click that up, and so what happens when we do so these are the cars that the car factory owns, and we fixed so that a new car is added to this list. But when we create a sales document for this, we also want to probably set who is the current owner and who's going to be the new owner. So this is actually what should happen when we transfer a car from the car factory to the car dealer or a car dealer. So how should we go about that? Well, the first thing is that we could set the existing owner on this. So instead of creating this here, I can do a let construction like this. Let's call that doc in. Like this. And then of course I can also set the document dot, and what's that then? Let's check the model. So not the buyer but the seller, and I can set that to this factory, which is the current in the car factory view. So good. Now I can also make sure that we actually show the seller's name here, and I'm gonna rename this to seller because that's what I want to show here. And if I want better control to what I actually display here in presentation, I can affect this field. So whatever I write here is actually what will be used, but practical way is to just leave this as the default name, because then it will take whatever the name of this is, unless there's an underscore in the name, because then it will only take the last part after the underscore. So if I have double underscore, it will only take the last part, and this is sort of a practical thing, but I want it to be named seller in this grid. I can also add the buyer to make that show, the buyer name, and same thing here. I'm gonna remove underscore name to make this display buyer. So whenever I do a car, you can call this prepare save. Yeah, so let's see. Maybe I did this wrong. Maybe I'm already the seller, because self is the car factory. So document for sales. Yeah. So I did this wrong. That's not uncommon, and it's totally okay to do things wrong when you model, because that's how you learn. So if I have the car factory, which is actually a car owner, I can see that the car owner has the document for sales. So I'm actually setting both end of these associations. First, document for sales, I add it there, and then I set for the document the seller. And that's totally unnecessary when it comes to MDriven, because it's implicit. If you set one end of the association, you also directly set the other end of the association. So that's not needed. But maybe what I wanted to do instead is to actually set the on the car transfer ownership document, I actually want to set which car we are talking about. And that might be a better use of this expression. So I'm gonna set the car association from this, but that can't be set to the factory, of course, because this expects a car. So we get the error here that in order to assign something, you need to have the same or compatible types, and car factory is not compatible. Which car is it that we want to set? Well, let's say that it's the current one that we have selected in the in our grid up here, where the cars that we own. So that's a vCurrent variable as well, and currently owned cars. So that means that I can see which I can assign a car to this paperwork. This is the actual car that we're going to set. And in order to see that, I will also add the car's registration number here. And that's good. In this case, it was good that is kept the underscore, because registration number is fine here. I can also add sort of the car's state and to see how we have flagged it in the state, the car state machine. Let's upload this and see how it behaves. I'm going to check service, check the changes. There's no changes detected, but there's still actions and view models maybe, of course, and that's exactly what we have done. So I'm heading over here and open up the browser to find my things, and in the factory seeker I have the BMW in Munich. I'm going to show that factory, and let's have a look at this lower grid. It says that, yeah, so this paperwork was created before me actually setting the car on the paperwork. So if I select this one and prepare for sale, I see that so this is this current owner. I don't have a buyer yet, but the registration number and the car state is brand new, and that's good. What I could do on the car is initiate the sale. Let's see, then it's in ownership transaction. Let's see what we actually do in this initiate sale on car. So navigating to a car and going into the state machine, I have this initiate sale, and that actually creates paperwork for me. So that's another way to that might be a better way to do it, instead of, as I did now, prepare the sale in this button and preparing the paperwork. The way that I had planned to do it from before, that I apparently had forgotten, is to allow this initiate sale on a specific car to create the paperwork for me. So that means that I actually got double paperwork now. I got a new one for this GAA 007, and so that might be a much better way. So I can actually go ahead and delete this button here. And I'm gonna delete these paperworks for now to sort of have them. Yeah, that's interesting. Now this car is in ownership transaction already, but we deleted the paperwork, so that's also an illegal case probably. You're gonna do cancel on this, and doing cancel on that, I would have assumed to get my since I did cancel on everything, also the creation of the paperwork was cancelled. So I'm gonna go here and do initiate sale on this one, and now I only have one set of paperwork. I'm gonna save that. Okay, so next step is sort of to find a buyer for this paperwork and drop this one. So I'm going over here and I'm dropping this widget, meaning that the column backing it is also dropped. Whenever I sort of delete paperwork for a car, I probably want to, if I'm here, I probably want to back this over here. So maybe that shouldn't be allowed to delete the paperwork if it's in this maybe we should never be allowed to remove the paperwork. But what we can do is know this state and say that in order for this to be okay, the first thing is that it shouldn't be null, because we can't delete null, and that's the state that I copied, so I want that. But for the specific paperwork, we can check is in OCL state, and we can have a hashtag to say that this is a state. Yeah, so that's not the name here. I think it's like in OCL state. Let's check the wiki on this one. Yeah, and it's called oclInState. So what oclInState checks whether an object has one or more state machines defined, and if one of these state machines are currently in the state in question. Yeah, so I was confused on the naming. OCL is in state. And so this is for the paperwork, and now it says that the car transfer ownership document has no state machine, and that's correct. It's actually for the car that we are trying to sell that we want to check this. So for the current paperwork.car, and if it's in this in ownership, this will come back as true. And what this is a read-only expression. So it's supposed to be read-only if this is null, or if it isn't null but the car is in ownership transaction. So that's one way to fix when we are allowed to delete the paperwork. In order to assign a buyer to this paperwork, we could bring up the first thing is who will be allowed to buy from the factory. Probably it's only the car dealers. So what do we have on car dealers so far? I'm gonna double click that one and see that we don't have much, almost nothing. So let's do a new view model and have that as a let's do a car dealer picker, and set the type on that to a car dealer. This shouldn't be rooted because we want to bring up all car dealers. I'm just going to add a nested view model class, multi-links, and do car dealer all instances. But I can also add this one, have this one to create a create and delete button for me. But maybe even the fastest way is to go to the copy value store auto form, because that's pretty much a value store of car dealers. So what that does, it's add a grid format to show all the car dealers and some attributes where I can set their names. I'm going to remove these because I don't want to set them manually. I'm going to move that one up. So I also got an action leading here. That's a global action. I'm going to move that into the views menu group, like that. Yeah, probably didn't leave the correct one. I left the grid. I should have left the name. So I'm going to fix that like this. And what we want to do is, from the car factory view, once we click, have selected a set of paperwork, we want to assign a buyer for this. And let's focus on this grid down here, and I'm gonna remove these superficial columns here. And I'm going to add a class action to this. What I want to do here is to, whenever this is clicked, is to bring up, so we're going to say pick buyer. And in order to have a buyer to show, we're gonna do a view model action that we can connect to this. The view model actions are, or rather the left side actions that are not placed buttons, are better to use for navigation and things. So we're gonna call that one pick buyer as well. And we want to bring up our car dealer picker view model, and we probably want to show that as a modal window, just that pops up. And in order for us to be to allow this modal dialog to show OK, we want the user to pick one of the car dealers. So one of so we're gonna check that the grid has something selected, so that this is not empty. Then the enable expression will be OK, and we can press OK. And when we press OK, what is it that we want to happen? Well, now we have the modal result, the current car dealer. This is the one that the user has picked of potentially many car dealers, and that's okay. We want to assign that to our current documentation, right? So I'm gonna have this in the copy buffer and do so the document for sales has a buyer association, and I want to assign pick the car dealer to that association. Okay, we did a lot, so let's go and upload the model and check that it flies. And where did we go? I'm over here. So for this car I can pick a buyer. So what happens was that my Modal dialog, all car dealers, popped up, but there are no car dealers. But what I also did was to have it in the views. So at least I thought I did. Car dealer picker, yes. And here I can see the left side action. So I'm going to create a new car dealer. Let's make 2 or 3. So the first one is called the first dealer, and the second dealer, and the third dealer. So now I at least have car dealers. So I'm going to head back. I'm going to pick a buyer. So I have these dealers, and I can pick the second dealer and press OK. And now the second dealer is assigned to my paperwork. So that's good. This paperwork is far from complete, and I'm allowed to delete it because well, it's not null, but the car state is not in ownership transaction, so then it's okay to use delete on this one. Good. I'm gonna save that one. So let's try another car then. For this one, if I were to try the same car, I can't, because I can't initiate the sale because it's in ownership transaction. But this car is brand new, so I can initiate the sale on that one, and I get the new paperwork, and I get to pick a buyer, and I can take the first dealer and press OK. So now I have 2 sort of transactions ongoing, but yeah, I can produce the document for this. Right, that was something that we did in an earlier chapter. Let's see what's happening on that one. And this is we get an error, so I'm gonna investigate that. But what I think is that we have misplaced our template for this document. So I'm just gonna go off screen for a while. Actually, it's good to be on screen, because a big part of being a developer is to find the issues. So let's see. I'm gonna turn on the actions here to see. So produce document, this action, what does it do? It executes this expression, open document report, and it has this view model as the main as the report data, and that we should it says going to specific URL, and we are not on that one any longer, because when we started using the MDriven server, we choose this port instead. And that probably explains why that is. If we were to take this to just check that we have it on 5001 instead. Yeah, so then we have it. We can open the template and see that we got that document. So that's the main cause of this problem. Good. It gives me an opportunity to address this need that we don't want to hard code our server location. We need the system to provide that for us. So how are we going to do that? Well, there's a built-in function for this in the sys superclass. We don't have that defined, so we can't get to it. Let's see. But I know for sure if I'm heading back to, I'm gonna check the wiki on this. I think it's called GetSystemURL or something. Sysingleton GetSystemURL. So adding this method to your sysingleton and marking it with Eco.ExternalLateBound can give you access to the running turnkey system URL address. And that's exactly what we want. So we're going to have this signature of a method in this. No, it's not on the, it's on the singleton. Sysingleton. Do we have a sysingleton? Yes. And we already have this GetSystemURL. And what it talked about was the tagged values. And the tagged value is marked as external latebound existence. So this value could be anything. It's just important that it's defined. And this is a trigger that routes this logic into the internal logic of the turnkey server. So we have a couple of these functions available to you, and we will find them out as we need them. And they are documented in the wiki. So GetSystemURL is one. Good. And we already had that one, so we're going to change this to not hard code this part of the value, but instead plus a string from sys singleton ocl singleton. So this is the class that is a singleton that follows the singleton pattern, and this is the OCL operator to get the one instance, and if there were no instances it would create one for us. And then we use the get system URL, and I can see that this is totally named wrong. Shouldn't be, this part shouldn't be here. I'm going to remove that now that this is in error, but the thing is that it's wrong already from here. So I'm going to fix that. The class name is mentioned here as well. It shouldn't be. I'm going to remove that. And then if I check this expression again and do a small change to make it trigger the evaluation, and this is better. Now I'm heading over to uploading this to the server so that the server knows about it, and then we can again check if we can produce this document. And now we cannot produce the document, so this is the sales report for car HAA. So I'm gonna open that. So official purchase document, the buyer named First Dealer has purchased the car HAA008 of type BMW from BMW in Munich. So good to have the paperwork in order. Right, so I'm gonna wrap it up here for now. Thank you.